International Media TV. Television that listens to you.
Hi, I'm Johnny Burrell. Welcome to the program.
The question of the day is Black media today. What does it mean? What are some of the challenges? What's important now in the climate of what's happening here in the United States and actually throughout the world? And one of our things we really want to honor is our Bayview, San Francisco Bayview National newspaper that is one of the oldest Black newspapers, and we'll be talking about that. But the main question is, Black media today, how important is it? What are some of our challenges and the climates that we're dealing with right now? So I'll start over here with our first panelist. If you could introduce yourself. And
Thank you, Phyllis. My name is Sheree Williams, and I am publisher and editor of Cuisine Noir Magazine. And I think the question of the day is very important. I've had the publication for 7 years, and you know, I'm always looking at my colleagues, what's going on. And first of all, being in Black media is very important because Cuisine Noir is the country's first Black food, wine, and travel magazine. And why it's important is because you don't see or hear the stories of Black chefs or Blacks in general necessarily more like you would. They're peppered in here and there in the media. And so we really have a publication that's dedicated to telling the stories, sharing the talents, sharing the accomplishments. And so being able to share that narrative from our perspective is so, so important versus having it shared another way, because there are different angles and different questions and things that we can ask that say maybe a food and wine wouldn't ask or another publication wouldn't ask. So that's why it's so important. Just in general, just looking at the state of Black media, it's really at a point where whether you're in a newspaper or you're in a magazine, it's tough. It really, really is tough. We've all witnessed what's going on between Ebony and Jet. You know, I was posting the publisher of Uptown magazine. I remember reading something where he says Black media matters because we're constantly fighting for advertising dollars. We're seeing to where before there was multicultural dollars, where you have dollars for Black campaigns, dollars for Hispanic campaigns, and dollars for maybe the general. But now we're seeing Black is rolled up under into general, and our dollars are not there as prominently or as abundantly as they were before. And so we're having to fight for those even more, which, you know, again, that's how a lot of us survive, based on those advertising dollars. I'm not in the mix, and it's nothing I'm interested in, but I've seen a lot of publications go after the tobacco dollars and some of the other dollars. I'm not one, our publication is not one around the tobacco dollars, but I'm seeing, you know, I've been reading a lot around that and just making sure, you know, they've got all this pot of money. Is it going to Black media? And Black media coming together to make sure that our voice is heard, the relevance and the importance of our publications are noted, and why we are here, instead of saying just don't throw us into a regular general pot, because our audiences are so unique. Our consumers love seeing people who look like us, who eat like us, who travel like us, and so that is why it's very important to have our publications and to have our voice. So, you know, the Bayview, again, is a very important newspaper. San Francisco, you know, we need that voice in the city to see what's going on in our community and to share that, and to share the stories and to tell the stories that other publications are in the city are not going to tell it, and to put it with that voice that we understand what's truly going on. So
you said something that I thought was really significant, is that we all have to band together. So maybe there's only 10 of us out there. Maybe it'd be better for all 10 of us to come into one to make it a little more powerful. But I just want to make that statement. But I do have a question for you. In the past, because I know I grew up with Jet, I grew up with Ebony, and then eventually Essence. How did your childhood kind of Black media influence you even wanting to start your own magazine?
Well, one, I didn't necessarily start it. I took it over from whoever did. But, you know, growing up and seeing women, you know, doing things, traveling and, you know, having positions and jobs, that does say something. You may not know it at the time that you're looking at that. But when you pick up an essence per se, and you're like, oh, she's going through the same problem that I'm going through, and it just really makes you feel comfortable, and it really makes you not feel alone to see what other Black women are going through. And so that was very important. I'm going back to your earlier comment, and I'm very serious about this. We have to band together as Black media, and even though the dollars are short, we got to get out of the mentality that, there's only so much, so I need to make sure that I get a cut out of this and a cut out of that. What's going to be for your publication is going to be for your publication. And so I think sometimes, and it's just my impression, that everyone is trying to get dollars so that their properties can survive or their businesses can survive, then we don't come together like we should. And I really don't like to see that. I don't.
Do you have an answer to how we can make that happen?
We just have to start with a dialogue. We really do, because I think we're stronger together than we are apart. And how can we put together media kits and say, you know what, we've got more numbers together than maybe we do separately. You talk about business, I talk about food, so maybe we can be more attractive to advertisers this way. So we just really need to start with those conversations to see how we can be more collaborative versus, again, working in our different silos, but saying that, Black media matters.
And when you say work in your different silos, I know there's organizations like the Black Journalists and that. Are there any organizations that you belong to that would do that kind of group together, have this dialogue, that are key to Black media?
No, I'm not a part of any groups. At the moment, I look at a source called Target News that really says who is moving here, who has this account, talks about which publications, what's going on with different publications and things like that. So, I'm looking to see, who is really sincere about doing what they say they were going to do. And when I see an organization and see a group that's about that, then that's when I will join.
I see.
So I'm not saying that it doesn't exist.
Right.
I just haven't found one yet.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking that might be, that nucleus that you need to have the dialogue to say, hey, why don't we do something together?
Right.
Thank you for that. Now, I'm gonna stay on you for a little while, okay? So, I happen to know your magazine because we're actually friends. Hi. But tell me the story of some of your struggles. I mean, when you took over the magazine and your love of enthusiasm, you have a certain model in mind. Mm-hmm. Tell me what your model is, and tell me some of the challenges that you've had.
Well, I have an advertising background, so I'm familiar with the lingo. I'm familiar with what you have to do to get advertisers to look at you. My challenge being 7 years old, and I say 7 years from when I started taking it over, is eyeballs. I'll get all the time, oh, your publication is great, you're fulfilling a great niche, etc., but you're too young. Your numbers aren't up there. Well, you know what? When you talk about an Essence, an Ebony, a Black Enterprise, they've got 40 years on me, so I can't compete with, yes, you may go with Essence that has a subscription rate base of 850,000 people. I can't compete with that. And so, my fight has always been, look at what I'm doing. People are coming to me because of food, whereas they go to Essence for lifestyle, Ebony and Jet for lifestyle, Black Enterprise for business, and even Uptown, just to name a few, for lifestyle as well. They're coming to me for food and wine and travel. And so we've been able to carve that niche and speak to our readers in that fashion, but it's still not enough. Everything is dollar signs, is give me more for less. And that seems to be the theme out here in the business world of advertising. And that's just my experience. I want to spend less, but I want to reach more eyeballs. And that's my struggle.
Thank you so much. And keep the faith. Come on, stay with it.
I know.
Okay, we'll move over to our next panelist. The same basic question. If you want to add to what Sheree said that ignited something in you, please feel free to do that. But tell us your name, and give us a little brief story about you.
Okay, my name is Cierra Bailey, and I'm currently a content writer for a startup news publication based in the Bay Area. And for me, a lot of things that Sheree said resonated with me, especially as far as creating that sense of community to build together with a lot of resources not being there. As for me, because I'm technically, a newbie, in the journalism world, and, I'm still aspiring to reach a certain point, it would be nice to have those resources available, even for me to reach out to, to make connections within the media world, or, have mentorships. And I know that those things do exist, but they're not as at the forefront. You have to do a little bit more digging to find that. And so I think that even though what Sheree was discussing was more so related to dollars, to build the publications, but I feel like having those groups also be present for young aspiring journalists would also be essential. But in general, the main question about how important Black media is, it's extremely important, especially right now, amid these times. We all know what's going on in the world, and especially with people within my generation getting more involved with activism, Black Lives Matter, and a lot of other organizations that are pretty much run by people in the younger generations that don't really have, basically they are rejecting mainstream media because they're not speaking for us. And so having these particular outlets that do speak for us, they're more important now than ever, especially because a lot of our history that those that came before us, they remember it because they lived there, they were in it, but as for us, we weren't. So we need these type of, publications that speak to us and can also transcend through generations. So that way we have that connection to our past, and that way we know how to move forward and can best make sure that we're sustaining that, integrity and sustaining that sense of community amongst each other to carry on. Otherwise, I feel like there's a lot of movements that kind of will fizzle out without that. And this is something that can't fizzle out, because as we can see, history repeats itself. And so in order to be able to combat it the way that the people before us did, we need that connection to those that came before us.
I love to talk to you young, fabulous people. I mean, we really need you. We need you. When you were growing up, how was the Black media influencing you? How were you influenced by the Black media, whatever, I'm assuming, Essence, Oprah, she got it. Sorry. How, when you were growing up and you had it on the coffee table at home, we had our jet in the restroom, the water closet, lived in the Victorian, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, and so tell me how, as a young adult, how when you were younger, how Black media influenced you.
First and foremost, Black media was very important because where I grew up in a predominantly white area. And so with that, seeing, Jet magazine and, family, they would subscribe to it, or even when I go to the hairdresser and, they have the magazines out, and seeing that helped me see a different side of beauty that I wasn't necessarily seeing in my everyday life, and not just beauty but lifestyle. Being able to have those publications where I see people that look like me relating to me, or even being praised for being beautiful. Like I remember in Jet they would have a section where it was like newlyweds, like they would have Yeah, and I used to love seeing that because, the stereotypical Black family, broken home and this and that. And it was nice in Jet to be able to see that they were praising Black love. And so, it's celebrating it and praising, And so that was beautiful for me. So Black media definitely influenced me in that way, being able to see what I wasn't necessarily seeing in my everyday life.
We'll come back to you now. We're going to kind of go with the flow, but I definitely want to get Terri in on this because we haven't really spoke about radio yet. And so I'm going to introduce our next panelist by him introducing himself. Thank you, Terri.
I'm Terri Collins. Excuse me. I'm Terri Collins from KPOO Radio, and we've been around for a while. And one of the things I definitely here to talk about the Baby newspaper, because as long as we've been around, we've been in contact and stayed in contact with the Baby newspaper. And KPOO has been a station, basically we try to think of things globally, even when we started in 1974.
1974, right?
Right, when I came in 74. It started in 70, but there's a whole story behind who started it. Two people, Harold Gagosian and Meyer Gottesson started the station in 1970, but they never got it off the ground, never got the money to be able to get it on the air. So someone else named Jeremy Landsman and Lorenzo Milan picked it up from them, and started it. And in 1974, we came in, myself and Joe Rudolph and George Kelsey and Jahid Ashley and Dave Whitaker and
Rudolph. I remember Rudolph.
and George
Occasion?
No, George Patton Colbert, and who's our attorney, came in. So we came and got a radio station and didn't know anything about radio, nothing, zero about radio. And so basically, we, even from our experience, you know what I mean, as from the San Francisco State strike, when we created the Black Student Union, created the Third World Liberation Front, I mean, as our creation, we understood it had to be global. Everything had to be global.
Right.
So in the first things, we made sure that it was a Native American program, they got prime time, a Palestinian program, and also Irish program because the struggle of Northern Ireland at that time.
Oh, right.
Yes, IRA, we definitely supported the struggle there. So from then on, we realized that everything what we did had to be global, and there had to be many people of many cultures. And so that's what we try to maintain at this particular time. We're non-commercial, of course, and we're independent, completely independent. I mean, I don't think there's too many stations around anywhere as independent as us. Every programmer can do whatever she or he wish to do, as long as they don't tear equipment up or something like that, you know what I mean, or curse or something like that. And so basically, it's just a station which everyone is a volunteer, and at this particular time in history, it's difficult to keep volunteers. So everybody there is old. There are two people there that have been there since the station went on the air. The station went on the air in June the 6th, 1973. It was Powell, Emmett Alfonso Powell, and Charles Christopher Miller. Powell has a program who does gospel music.
Yeah, I know that.
And he's probably one of the world's known gospel music producers and creators, and you know, and so he's had that been there since the beginning. And Charles Christopher Miller, who's been there since then. He plays old music from the 40s and the 50s. So we try to deal with the whole concept of history at our station, the cultural history, and we try to maintain independence, where every programmer can do what he or she wants to do. We love to have more news. In fact, when he first started, we probably had the best news department in the city when he first started, because there were more volunteers at that particular time, and you know, it wasn't like it is now. And so we had in the news department one time, we had probably about 14 people.
Wow.
In the news department, we was doing probably the best news job in the city. It was on Natoma Street at that time, 531 Natoma Street.
Right.
And so basically now we just in the same position right now that Bayview is. Bayview right now produces once a month, and it used to produce once a week. They have a website, but for people who in prison, and I consider everybody in the prison right now, 95% are political prisoners. And you know, a political prisoner doesn't just deal with being a member of the Black Panther Party. So a political prisoner has to, in my opinion, deals with economic. The reason why we have so many black people and brown people in prison, because of economics and the political, racism and capitalism.
And injustice.
Yeah, this capitalism, the system of capitalism itself is a system of terrifying greed and torture, whatever, you know what I mean? So this Bayview has to go into the prisons. As you know, I spoke to Mary about 2 weeks ago, and they censored this paper in New Folsom. They censored it. In fact, they even sent her 58 people who subscribed to the paper, 58 people who subscribed to people who did not get it, and they told her that. And so this paper, in my opinion, we've been very close to Bayview and KPOO because, I mean, I don't say we black because there's all kind of people in our station, but I guess black orientated, you know what I mean? And when you be black orientated, I mean, that's Black Lives Matter. When you're black orientated, that means everybody else in the world is important, because first, we as black people are on the bottom of the heap. I don't care where you go in the world, are the most persecuted people. I don't care where you go, you find it in Europe and South Africa right now.
It's worldwide.
Worldwide. So basically, that's what I look at the Bayview is why it's so important. And I try to stay in touch with Mary and Willie. And as you know, both of them are not youngsters no more. As myself, I'm not a youngster no more. And so I worry. I personally worry about continuing.
You know, something, Terry, that you said, I happen to live in the area where now KPOO is, and I've been honored to be on a couple of the talk shows there talking about the plight that we have in our neighborhood, that we have actually all over the country, any urban city where the displacement of African Americans and brown people are rampant. So I just wanted to add the other part, that you are so key to the community, that we were always welcomed. Whatever the plight we had, we could come in, and any producer would take us and put us on a show. I think you're so vital to that, and that's one of the things that I want to say about black media, that it is so important to the community. Not only that we see people like ourselves, but we get the word and the names out, because slowly but surely, one by one, we've been displaced out of San Francisco quietly, and we're not being quiet anymore. The more noise we make, the more we get out in media, the more we get in print media, the more we get out on social media, the more we get out on radio, just to get the word out there, to come out and join us, hear what's happening, see what you're doing, vote right. Yeah, vote to the people that are, like, when you talk about incarceration, you know, we talked about this earlier. I believe it's modern day slavery. There's no way you cannot say the incarceration of black and brown people. The percentages are 3% of black left in San Francisco, California. Out of that 3%, 56% are incarcerated. So what that means to me is, when they do eventually get out for what minor infraction they did, 3 strikes you're out, they're not going to be able to vote. They're not going to be able to have a home. So where are they going to go? So it's a big thing, the media, and to getting the voice out and having you in the community where people like us, we have hashtag Black Homes Matter, because yeah, Black Lives Matter, but if you don't have a home, we're back to the repeating of history, as the sister said here, of being pushed out when the urban environment, tech, whoever comes in, I'm not blaming them, all of a sudden this is the place to be, it gets regentified and we get pushed out. It will happen again if we don't own. So that's my little thing about it.
Off camera. Terry, could you talk a little bit more about the Bayview, how they can begin to maybe attract people, young people even, who can come in to help to work the paper, to raise funds, advertisers, editors? What are some of the ideas? You had some thoughts on the way over, and you as well, Phyllis. Could we, and our young journalist, Cierra Bailey, you might have some thoughts about young journalists who might go to a paper, namely the Bayview, and an intern, I don't know, in a way that they can help. Could you talk about that for us, please?
Terry, like what's needed with Bayview, and what are some of your suggestions on the help they need as the founders are getting up in age and need to pass it on?
Well, right now in a city like San Francisco, where I can think of terms of going to these universities, for example, San Francisco State, or even USF, which is a Jesuit university, private university, or City College, which right now is in the struggle, as you know, what's been happening at City College, and go over there and be able to talk to the departments over there and see if there's a possibility that some of their students who are in journalism, they don't have to be in journalism. I mean, none of us went to KPOO knew anything about journalism, you know what I mean? So, but to come in some kind of way, work with the Bayview and be able to get work study or something, so they get credit or something, because they need some youngsters to come over there. And so one of the things and another thing about the advertisement, I mean, these black organizations, I mean, we, KPO, have done advertising, but it's, you know, it's hard for us to even come up with money for advertising.
Yes,
but we have, right? But, I mean, any black organizations, even white ones, whoever feels it's necessary that this paper stay in afloat, they should advertise there. They should do that. I mean, especially the Black Chamber of Commerce. I mean they should do something. I mean, these churches, anyone, I mean, somebody to advertise so they can keep going. But as far as having someone to help Mary and Willie, they have to be some kind of younger people who can come from one of these schools or somewhere to help understand the necessity. The first they got to know the necessity. So historically, people got to be speaking to these youngsters about our history,
Yes.
our history. And I mean, our history of what is necessary and why it's important for these institutions like KPOO and Bayview don't go under, stay afloat.
Yeah, we've got a couple of subjects here. The one subject is money, advertising. I think we've talked about that numbers before. But something that's really in my heart is have the youth people have that connection between the university and, like you said, Terry, you don't have to be in journalism, but just to have a program that's set aside for anyone who's interested in historical community media. We don't even have to call it black media. Historical media, to come and lend a hand on how to bring this up to the 21st century, you know, because once again, the legacy is slowly but surely dying off, and the baton has to be passed on. So I think very much like Terry said, I'm a solutions-based person, that really getting the word out to all of the universities and definitely the junior colleges, and I say all over the Bay Area, not just in San Francisco, and actually all over the nation when I think about it, because I just spoke at San Francisco State University through their anthropology department on what the plight of gentrification in the Western Addition, and they literally just flew them out for a week of study and flew them back. So I would say even something like bringing in intellect and kind of a think tank from anywhere in the world that would come from the point of academia to say something historical like that. So that's kind of my suggestion on it. Not only local schools, but also worldwide, just taking that quick trip and kind of do a project and see and put a plan together, and then somebody else implement it. So that's kind of my idea out there. Okay, so do you have a comment?
I agree wholeheartedly with everything that both of you said, and that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier when I was talking about having groups that are reaching out to, you know, young journalists, or like you said, they don't have to be in journalism, but people who are interested in that. And I definitely think that there needs to be an effort on both parts. You know, the younger generation needs to make sure that they're educated on things, you know, that are there and resources that are there, and they're looking for, you know, local black media like Bayview. But on the other side of it, I also think there needs to be that effort to, you know, reach out to pull in these youngsters the best way that they'll receive it. So, you know, even if the advertising dollars are not there, or you're unable to get somebody into the schools to do, you know, a talk in a classroom, you know, social media campaigns and efforts, you know, that's how to reach this generation, you know. So if there's and like, you know, even what Terry was saying, you know, well, we're not youngsters anymore, so maybe they're not so keen on that. But if you get one person in the office who's familiar with, you know, social media, and they can be the strategist to reach out to, you know, the younger generation to get in there so that the baton can be passed. And so I just think there needs to be a greater effort on both ends of the spectrum to bridge the gap and come together so that the legacy does not die.
You know, something just came to mind. I could see this as a project in a classroom, and they put together a social media plan and pass it on. So it could actually be taken on the campaign of San Francisco Bayview, put it in a classroom setting where they're doing either journalism, print work, anything like that, and making that, I know it's out there, the connection between social media, modern day media, and this, and just putting together a media a campaign that anybody can implement. I kind of like that idea. You listening out there? I kind of like that idea. We need a professor out there that would take this on as a project and you use that tuition that the kids are paying to come up with a social media campaign. I like that altogether. I really like. Thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Until something like that can possibly happen, can you talk about encourage viewers to subscribe, to give, to tell others, to advertise? And Terry, could you just talk a little bit more about the impact or the relationship between KPOO and Bayview, the kinds of things that you guys have done either together or the same to impact the black communities?
Well, automatically, for example, I mean, we just felt closer to the Bayview, even when it first began. I remember when they got it back in about 1999. I think they got it from this brother, what's his name, El Kareem?
El Kareem,
yeah,
yes.
Back in 99, somewhere around in there. And we felt close to them right away, because it's not just because it's a black newspaper. As we say, we have to think globally. For example, when you think in history, look in history, Marcus Garvey's editor of the paper was from India, for example, from India. You know what I mean? So, so even at that particular time, somebody from India edited Marcus Garvey's paper. I mean, and for example, even the Sun Reporter had a brother from India, Shashi Dalal, who edited that paper. So we think globally. Black people always have been thinking globally. And so when you think, say, black, it's not the question of being black. The question is, it focuses on the people who have been the most depressed. Oppressed. And I mean oppressed, excuse me. Oppressed.
No, oppressed.
Right. And
but so, depressed too, don't get twisted. I have depression.
Right. So in other words, when you're sitting on that, that means the whole world, because we are the foundation of that, for example. And so basically, what I feel needs to be done, I don't care who you are, everybody should come up with some money to help them keep that paper coming out once a month. I mean, people should just send money. And pledge money and say, Mary, we ain't gonna let you really go down. I mean, we're gonna send you some money. I mean, and try to get as many advertisers as possible. Because what Mary told me, but last time we spoke, said that we just don't get the advertising revenues. We need to keep it going. So if we don't get the advertising revenues to keep it going, people got to send the money.
Private dollars.
Send them money.
Private dollars. You know, I had the honor of being at the our MOAD in San Francisco, and it was a program on black giving for the arts, and Danny Glover sponsored it. One of the things that the founder of San Francisco Foundation said, I thought it was so significant, is that if every person took out a really small life insurance policy. I know this sounds scary, but listen, hear me through. A small life insurance policy of, let's say, just $1,000, which means your monthly or yearly premium would be nothing. And you put the beneficiary as San Francisco Bayview. So basically what that does is when you pass, and we all going to die, I'm sorry to be, but you know, I'm usually cheery, but still, we are going to do this. This is an easy way to give back, knowing that this will continuously keep. It was just a brilliant idea. I just wanted to put it out there that that's also something that we all can do that are working, getting ready to retire. It's something really small that would have a huge impact, and know that after Mary's gone and after they're gone, that this fund, it will be funded. So that's an idea, but I can't steal the idea. It definitely came from Giving Black Arts, the San Francisco Foundation brother that was speaking. So with closing, why don't we talk a little bit about the initial question. You can do kind of a summary of it, and then also maybe one more kind of bring it home suggestion to save San Francisco Bayview. And I'll start with you.
Okay, so I feel like we pretty much, honed in on the importance of why Black media needs to continue, why it needs to be here, and especially something like Bayview that's been around for so long, why it's also important. Because there's also other publications that, are trying to get in, but they're new. And since Bayview has that longevity, it needs to stay around. And I think that, from our discussion, two things that definitely need to happen is getting people out to donate. Your idea was great, being able to advertise, which is, where the dollars come in, that unfortunately may be scarce, but what we can do is find ways to reach out to different communities throughout the Bay Area and throughout the nation and globally, as you said, Phyllis, in order to make that happen. And then secondly, I also believe that reaching out to the younger generation by way of social media, joining the digital world to make sure that people who want to help can figure out ways to help that might not pick up the paper. And I think those are two very important things. And then also who can take over the paper, as time progresses to make sure that the legacy remains. So I think those are key.
With your name and what's in just a brief bio and look into that camera.
Absolutely. Cierra Bailey. I'm a freelance journalist and content writer at a startup news site based here in the Bay Area.
Thank you so much. Now, Terri, do I need to repeat that again, or you got it? Just say whatever you want to say.
No,
just to wrap this up.
No, basically, one of the things,
and I'd like you to look at that camera.
Okay, one of the things that's very important is that this paper right here is necessary to have in your hand. I mean, social media is okay. Social media, that website, but people in prison, they don't have no computers. They don't have social media. So this paper is so important for prisoners, people in prison. As I said, everybody in prison, as far as I'm concerned, is a political prisoner. And this paper right here is a lifeline for them to continue to communicate with other people, right? For example, Hugo Panel, I mean, he never got to see this paper, but he was always told about this paper because he was in isolation for 46 years, for example. So there's so many people in prison, this paper is necessary. So one of the main things I think people should really think about, the people was locked down, as you said, they all slaves.
Yes.
Doing slave labor, producing stuff for
sale.
For the sale out there. So they need this paper. So, and of course, we have to by any means necessary, keep it going.
I am known, you put your money where your mouth is. Because I like to be happy. It's about solutions. And there's so many areas of black media that need help, where there's the advertising, where there's donating. That's money, you guys. And then there's the internship. And actually, internship is money too, because in the schools, they're paying the tuition to do that. So I have a foundation. So my message is that, once again, the example I gave with having a life insurance policy, I really believe in just donating. I believe that we can, the power that we have as private citizens, we are one of the richest countries in the world and one of the richest Bay Area and cities in the world. There's no reason why all the papers that we decide as a community need to stay, that we can't pay that right out of our pocket. I mean, we get our hair did, don't tell me it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. We get our nails done. I'm not saying don't get that done, because I understand. But I'm just saying, just as we give to that, we need to give to our community through media. The social media, another idea that I have that would be easy for an intern to do, or maybe even I could do it, I don't know, I'm so busy, but a GoFundMe account. As simple as a GoFundMe account that knows that we're looking for money. It's getting the word out there. $10 here, $20 here, it'd be amazing. So once again, I'm all about philanthropic activities to make things like the social media and things like San Francisco Bayview sustain itself, because we do have the money. Now, we do have government grants and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying to give up on that, but I'm saying the money is here. And if all of us just give a little bit, the same concept of us coming together, then we've got something here. I want to definitely give a big thanks to the gallery here. It's a local community gallery, Joyce Gordon's Gallery. I'm telling you, I love it. I'm an interior designer. You should come out and take a look. Not only are they in the community with beautiful artists, they also allow us to have a session like this. Sometimes we've been very crowded. So I just want to say thank you so much. And so I want to say goodbye, all my panelists that had such great ideas about black media. It was so great to have youth here and have also our legends here, and you are legendary. Thank you so very much. I'd like to invite over to you Joyce Gordon. Joyce?
Thank you. Joyce Gordon from Joyce Gordon Gallery, downtown Oakland. And this has been one of many events that we've had here. And I encourage you all to really pay attention, because it is very, very important that we support each other in the Bayview newspaper.